Are we seeing Bishop Kelly tonight? I thought there was only
No,
one
not
game.
tonight. But they're in the league. We
Okay.
just don't see them. Yep. Yes.
Yes.
Oh. Yep. When is the last time broadcast? I guess we did the director ARAM.
Yeah,
last time we
yeah.
did League of Legends. That was still.
Glad all that work Arya put into the overlay can finally be brought to fruition.
I mean, it was primarily made for this, and there's one other thing we thought was going to happen, but didn't. But now I don't remember what.
Welcome to the Boise State Esports Arena, and tonight you're watching Idaho High School League of the action. Former Boise State varsity player for League of Legends, and yeah, I just kind of teased it, but it's been a while since we've been to Summoner's Rift. A lot of the league events we've had have been ARAM events, so back down to the old classic.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Glad to have it back. Glad to see what kind of changes have happened in the game. There's been a lot of new items and new characters, and so it'd be cool to see how these Idaho teams are going to bring this out and see what they're able to bring on the table.
Now let's just focus just a little bit more on the Idaho teams and give us kind of a general picture of, like, in this general league, who's leading, what teams do we have to watch out for, and these two teams before us, Mountain Home and Soda Springs.
Yeah, so we've got Mountain Home and Soda Springs. Actually, it looks like we're going to take a look at some of the standings here. We see Meridian Technical leading the charge at 7-0, followed by Jerome and Boise High School. These teams are doing well so far, and we'll have to see how they're able to finish out this season with only 2 games left.
So it's not necessarily these two teams are at the top of the bracket. But sometimes, you know, you just want to get these last-minute end-of-season matches in to boost your morale. It will be Mountain Home going up against Soda Springs. We were talking, these two teams, you know, also have some interesting mascots, I just got to say. Soda Springs, they had some interesting inspiration for their mascot. That's all that I'm going to say. But I know a better source of inspiration, the inspiration that really matters. It's the inspiration to perform well, and it's brought to you not
There
by
it
this.
is.
Yeah, there's some life questions that I think need to be asked by whoever made this artist. But anyway, not only do I think you need to have a nice talk with therapists, but I think DC is also calling in, and their lawyers want to have a chat as well. But anyway, we joke aside here, but what is really important, what I was saying is the true inspiration you need is Doc's keys to the game in League of Legends. That's going to be to focus on a strong comp, play to your comp, remember your win condition, and of course employ that dragon control. It's all brought to you by Drop-In Gaming, the premier online platform for gamers who seek competition. Play your favorite games to win cash and prizes through free and paid entry matches and tournaments. Whether you are new to the scene or a seasoned veteran, Drop-In Gaming has the right games and competition for you. Now we get the chance to see for a long time. Well, okay, thanks for that. They're just messing with me right
It's
now.
true.
This is, you know, In another league match too, one of the other casters who's very well known for his work here in League of Legends with Boise State Esports. We're talking, of course, about Adam McGuire Chizu. I mean, there was one time where he referenced an Idaho Spud Bar, and production didn't let that go. So I have a feeling that particular bird is going to be haunting my nightmares and the rest of this broadcast for many weeks to come. But now we actually get into the meat of the situation, the actual picks and bans, and who are you looking out for?
We'll have to see what these teams bring. A lot of the teams that I like to see playing more for comfort rather than for meta. A lot of teams try and play around what's currently the pros are playing, and at this level, it's really hard to do, hard to make work. So I'd rather see someone play a champion that they know how to play, know the matchups, and know kind of their builds, and be able to focus on their strengths rather than try and build on what they've seen other people do.
Yeah, there's no more frustrating situation of where you're playing a hero that just doesn't click. You're playing a champion that just doesn't click for you, and I think that's something that aside from the very top professional league players that happen who could just play anything, but again, that's like the very elite group of players. Right. It's kind of something that a lot of gamers just have to kind of accept. It's like, I'm really great on this one character. I can't for the life of me make this other character work out. That doesn't mean that I'm a bad player necessarily, but I just have to work around what's best for me. And what isn't going to be best, at least in terms of the bans, no team is going to be able to use Mordekaiser to start things off.
Yeah, Mordekaiser's just a super strong solo laner. You can see him isolating fights, using his ult to make sure he gets that 1v1, potentially taking off the support or maybe a hyper carry, ensuring they're not in the team fight, at least for 7 seconds. So it's definitely a good choice to ban, especially if it's someone that there's a very strong player or solo laner on that side. Of course, we see Caitlyn taken away from the other side. Long range, AD carry, very strong in team fights and able to just kind of poke people down. So I like seeing what I'm seeing so far.
And Warwick is going to be next on the ban list for Soda Springs. They've exhausted 2 of their bans. I'm going to be looking to do their final, and we haven't really seen too much of the new stuff. We're actually seeing some very legacy characters being banned so far.
Yeah, I think all these champions have been around for over 10 years, so they've had quite a long time to learn of them. Some of these champions might be older than the players themselves.
That is true.
But we'll have to see who actually gets picked. Maybe if we get something like, Vigar's another original one. Although Vigar's been really strong in the meta right now. We've been seeing a lot of people play him. I think he's got like the 3rd highest win rate for 80 carries actually right now. And I've even seen some people build a little tankier, relying on stacking up the AP with his Q. So we'll have to see, or I'm glad to see they getting rid of it and seeing they know what they're looking for. Their bans are coming out quick. Akshan, okay, there's a newer one they're getting rid of, though. No one wants to see that mid lane Akshan reviving the whole team after getting some kills.
And Zach's going to be the final ban being brought out by Mountain Home before we get into the actual picks.
Yeah, Zach's one can be very frustrating to play against. Long range engage, and can definitely just bring a lot of crowd control. And there's always surprising me amount of damage that he's able to get off with his OU.
Oh my goodness. Oh, are we talking classics or what? Is this an actual Garen pick?
Where is Glovely when we need her?
Oh,
Garen comes out at the gates, right at the top.
Now,
and it's going to be
that other pick is not Garen. I just want to focus on the Garen right now because this is a momentous moment. All we need is an Annie pick, and we are at the top level of pure class and taste.
Annie's another one who's been really strong recently. We saw G2 Caps, I believe, earlier today in the LEC playoffs against Mad Lions. So it's definitely a strong pick in the current meta. And Ornn's another one who's just been a staple for so long, can bring a lot of value to your team, can upgrade items, just a big strong tank, a lot of engage, and when paired with Samira, it definitely gives you a comp that can protect the Samira and make sure that they're able to stay focused and safe throughout the fight.
And then 2 picks from Soda Springs coming out almost instantly.
Yeah, Cho'Gath and Aurelion Sol. Aurelion Sol is going to be interesting after its recent rework. It's become really strong, scales really well, but it's a little less flank heavy, or roaming, I should say. He's not quite as good as flying across the map as he used to be, but now he's much stronger in the team fights, has a massive ultimate that can just become the size of the entire screen, depending on how late this game goes.
Silas is going to round out the remaining picks for Mountain Home as we head into the second round of bans. One's already been brought out by Mountain Home, and a Nautilus is put in response by Soda Springs.
Yeah, we see both these sides still looking for their support. We still need an 80 carry from Soda Springs and jungler coming out from Mountain Home. So have to see them kind of pinch these pools just a little bit. Of course, there's a Pike ban as well. Not wanting to see that on this side of Soda Springs. And Pike can be very strong. It's very snowbally, can get a lot of gold in your hands, and he just does a ton of damage, especially lethality. So not a bad ban to get rid of at this stage.
And oh my goodness, okay, we were thinking that we were going to be playing to our personal preferences with the Garen pick, only to break my heart with the Amumu ban shortly afterwards.
You hate to see it. The sad mummy, gonna have to be sad a little bit longer, not making any friends on this day. But now that the bans are finished, we see a Kayn being busted out. Kayn's actually really strong here, where he can have a Garen and Cho'Gath, so I'd like to see a red Kayn come out here. He's so strong with that knock-up and just the extra damage to these tanks.
Ezreal next. It's always just good. Oh, and Seraphim as well.
It's a very strong bot lane, Ezreal Seraphim. There's not really much Samira can do against that. I think she's probably going to have to stay back and try and just survive until the mid to late game where she actually has items and has a bit more kill pressure. Depends on what they decide to pair with her, though. We'll have to see what support comes out, but there's not a lot of engage coming out. Looks like the Thresh. Okay, Thresh pairs really well with Samira, gives her an extra out with that Lantern, and this looks like some pretty good team comps we've got here.
A lot of very classic names here. I mean, a few new names sprinkled in, but by and large, it's the champions that everyone knows and knows depending on the situation. It varies depending on your play session.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Samira is the newest. I think she's a year, maybe 2 years old. So she's still relatively new, but by and large, we've got a lot of the original champions.
The back in my day composition,
exactly.
I'm going to call it.
Yep. Be interesting to see how these teams play out. I feel like the entire, just looking at these comps, I mean, the Mountain Home team, they have the Ornn engage, they have the Sylas engage, they have Thresh Hook, they have Kayn's W. They have a lot of ways that they can look to start these fights and try and go in and get things going. But I'm not seeing a lot of options from the Soda Springs team. They have kind of the Seraphine ult that can kind of push them and start a fight, but that only if they're lined up and able to hit them all, and even then it kind of just slowly brings them forward. It doesn't fully start a fight as hard as an Ornn engage. So we'll have to see how well they're able to kind of kite these fights back and take them on their own terms.
But you're forgetting, Garen can spin, okay? I
It's
mean,
true.
you can't discount the spin to win strategy, okay?
Spin to win leads to a win, as Glovely might say if she were here. I mean, it is a strong matchup for Garen. He definitely does well into Ornn, has a lot of damage, and especially, I mean, Samira can't do anything against him. The silence can be big against Sylas and Kayn. So there's a lot of things this this Garen could bring into this game. I have to see
But
how
I
they
think
do
also the Ornn pick just really kind of comes into its own in the latter half of the match. You know, normally with the two tanks in the upper lane, we're seeing a fight with pool noodles here and there. But once you're able to quite reliably get those Call of the Forge gods in to help start out your team engage, and that's what you touched on, just so much stuff to start things out for Mountain Home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely going to be difficult if it gets to late game for Soda Springs. We're going to have to see them get, especially bot lane with their Ezreal Seraphine comp, we're going to need to see them come out strong, get some kind of lead in that lane, whether it's eliminations or just turret plates. We'll have to see what they bring to the table.
Well, as we are waiting out the remainder of the spectator lane, we just want to remind you that the top 5 plays of the game are brought to you by the Idaho Army National Guard, who invites you to take your impressive critical thinking skills into real time. More than 10 jobs offering a $20,000 bonus and your degree of choice paid for. The Idaho Army National Guard is one of the best teams to join out there. Reach out to them on Twitch at iGuard Gaming. Now, we're just moments away from hearing what I consider to probably be the most nostalgic sounds in terms of Boise State esports for me, is just all the sounds, all of the ping sounds overlaid with the orchestral streams in the background, bringing back. I mean, that is some of the first sound effects, you know, that I heard. It's how we started the whole program off with an exhibition match. So it's like, you know, there's just a certain, you know, sense of nostalgia that washes over you once you get to hear those audio cues again.
Especially just loading into the game, the welcome to Summoner's Rift. I mean, it's just this classic sound. And here we go, loading into it, popping into this first game. Gonna follow this bottom side, who's grouping up, who might see some kind of invade, but it looks like it'd be difficult with their solo laners kind of sticking in the base.
Overall, not too much to expect, at least for these first few seconds as we wait for the minions to spawn. And what are you most going to be looking forward to? Because as we bring out the overlay, we're going to be able to see the items being purchased. You know, in terms of any of these champions or any of these picks, what are going to be things you're looking for, like key items?
Yeah, definitely a lot of the choices come down to what mythic you decide to build. And you only have one option, so a lot of people have been leaning towards like the shield bow for Samira. I like to see Rod of Ages. That's a new item that, well, it was an old item. They removed it, and then they brought it back this year. That's been doing really well, seeing a lot of people build that item, and it's been really strong. Just gives you so much damage and survivability, and that can be huge, especially for someone like Silas, who's looking to just kind of dive in on top of these squishies from Soda Springs.
Now we're going to get to see the rubber is going to meet the road, so to speak. Minions have spawned. Teams are going to start to maybe try to coalesce around what first buff they want to pick up in the jungle. What's also quite interesting is that Ornn is kind of hiding out in the jungle. He's not really meeting Garen in the top lane, but he's probably going to move to the more standard position. I just like pointing out insignificant details.
I mean, that's what half of League of Legends is making stories about very small things and pretending it was intentional.
Soda Springs is going to start things out by picking up red buff, blue buff going over to Mountain Home likewise. So nothing too crazy to start things out. I'm sure once we hit the 5-minute mark, some storylines are going to start to develop.
I mean, I didn't even think about it during the pick ban phase, but Cho'Gath jungle for Soda Springs is an interesting choice. Someone like you saw a lot of in like maybe Season 1, maybe Season 2. But since then, he's primarily been a top laner, occasionally mid lane. So seeing him in the jungle is an interesting take. A lot of his ganks rely heavily on landing his Q, which can be easily dodged. So we'll have to see what kind of success he's able to have in this jungle.
Both teams really just focusing on farming CS for now. We haven't seen any, too risky engagements right now. Just working on building up that gold, which is still pretty even for both of the teams. No major advantage being brought out quite yet.
Yeah, we do see the bot lane of Soda Springs getting the early push, which is kind of what we expected. They're the ones that kind of have the pressure on them of needing to find some kind of lead early into this lane. Neither of the other lanes really have much option. They're kind of just back and forth. I mean, Aurelion Sol is more so trying to survive, but a lot of the lead that Soda Springs needs to build into this game needs to come from the bot lane.
Now just off of the minion wave, Mountain Home's going to be pushed back toward under their own turret. Soda Springs isn't going to bite off more than they can chew in this situation, however.
Yeah, they're staying safe, making sure they get all the last hits, maybe missing a few here or there. We do see Emperor Jar Jar actually on the Samira, someone who's been in the arena several times. Had them out here quite a bit. They were part of one of the Esports U high school camps we've done. Now as we take a look at the items, a big lead coming out for the Ornn in top lane actually, with almost 12 minions above.
That isn't insignificant, and he's already just kind of going to do a hello hi to this Garen. It's not going to take too much damage off of that, but this consistent lead in CS that we're going to see is kind of, we're going to see the inverse of what's playing out from the bottom lane right now. Just on the minion waves, we're just going to see Garen slowly be pushed back more and more toward his tower.
Some nice damage coming out from Mountain Home. Just going to poke back at this bot lane a little bit. They're keeping the CS numbers relatively close. Wow, we see Cho'Gath helping push out the mid lane. Looks like he's going to help Aurelion Sol get a recall, but actually Aurelion Sol's going to step up, not going to take the time. He wants to try and keep pushing this wave, try and make sure he can deny any minions he can to Silas.
course, as we're waiting, we haven't seen any major objective spawn quite yet, but as we're thinking about the Dragon game that's most likely going to be brought out later, I mean, what do you think are going to be kind of the most impactful given the team compositions we have so far?
I think a Mountain Soul would be very big, just to try and make it that much harder and give them a little bit of safety for Soda Springs. They're very squishy comp, so getting that extra armor and shield just to help them out a little bit to try and survive the Silas and Kane, Samira. But be interesting to see what it ends up being. Of course, the first dragon has spawned, which actually is a mountain, so it means the first one won't be a mountain soul as it cycles through all 5 of them. So we'll have to wait till we get to the 3rd dragon before we find out what it actually ends up being.
Also just seeing a little, I was going to say maybe a potential gank for Mountain Home, but no, they're just going to chill for right now, just continue with this poke damage. And the top lane has evened up somewhat. I mean, there's still a big lead for the Ornn, but at least he's brought it back to within 10, though he's going to get charging in, put more poke damage onto Tons.
It's an interesting ult coming out from the Garen, just using it trying to push back the Ornn, but with Ornn being so healthy, it didn't really do that much. I think I'd rather see him hold on to that, look for that to kind of finish off one of these eliminations. But I decided to try and use it early, and we'll have to see if it's able to help bring back some of that CS lead.
And if you look across all the lanes, there really isn't any specific lane in which... Oh, there's the spin. I wanted to see it. There isn't any really specific lane that we're seeing where Mountain Home isn't matching. We're going to see the Forge God be brought out. He might catch Tons with the gank coming out. This could be first blood. Tons is moving under tower and just barely manages to stagger away.
Yeah, had to blow the flash. He did get Kane's flash back up from the other side, but puts him in an awkward spot if Kane decides to come back here in the future. He's going to be forced to recall, try and buy some items, make his way back in that top lane before that wave crashes. Meanwhile, we see Silas looking towards the bot lane. He's going to grab the Seraphine ult, pops it, lands on both of them. A lot of damage coming out, and Silas is going to take up the first blood on Ezreal. Seraphine's burning away. Will she survive? No. Zombie Killer's going to take the second. That's a 2-0 lead for Mountain Home.
They're going to have to wait until they kind of get the minion back up on this wave to push forward, but now they're in prime position also to pick up a bit of extra gold from the armor plating as well. And what was just a very slight lead by Mountain Home is now gone plus 2K.
Wow, that's just exploded already. That's quite a lead for only 7 minutes into the game.
Especially when you were saying, like, Soda Springs' main goal was, like, they wanted to get this Ezreal and Seraphine off and running off to an early lead. So starting out with, you know, getting first blooded in the bot lane is not in that strategy whatsoever. And
yeah.
Also in the mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, that was a good gank coming in. Kane not taking up much time. Even forcing out the flash and ultimate from Aurelion. So having to burn just about everything to try and survive. Looks like he's going to be forced to recall. Actually, he's going to stick around. It's a dangerous spot to stay. He's so low. Yeah, flash coming out from Silas. Just jumps on top of him, takes him out for the 3rd kill.
Bit of spinning to clear out this minion wave, but Tons is finding himself pushed back with a lot of pressure. Zorn just getting right in his face. The respawns have come through for the bot lane.
Ezreal getting the push in once again. He does have Cho'Gath on this side of the map, so feeling a little bit safer. Kane's looks like doing actually Rift Herald on the other side. Gonna be trying to build their lead even more. Silas comes in to join. The ping he's missing, but I don't think they realize that they're on Rift Herald right now.
No, I haven't really seen any huge pings be brought out by Soda Springs. I also don't really know if they have that much vision down there as well. This is so much time being given over to Mountain Home to pick up this crucial objective.
Oh, see the fight coming in. They're going to jump on top of the Seraphine. Pops the ult. Heal is burned, but it's not going to be enough as Seraphine's going to fall down, jump up top of Ezreal, but he is able to run away, back out with his E and his flash, and he's going to survive that one.
Talking about the armor plating just a little bit earlier, the first one is almost picked up by Mountain Home. You see the Rift Herald has also been brought out in top lane, so we'll see how many charges that they can get. This first one's already going to take a huge amount off that tower. They get gold from both top and bottom lane. Armor plating just falling left and right.
Yeah, we do see them taking Dragon. They're going to finish it off there, but I mean, I think they lost across the map 4 turret plates right there. That's such a gold influx for Mountain Home, putting them almost 2,000 gold further ahead. They have a 4K lead going into 10 minutes. It's going to be hard for Soda Springs to fight back onto this, but they do have their first Dragon. There might be an opportunity for them to start stacking those, give them a way to kind of fight back in this late game if they're able to get that buff.
And one of the big factors that's been leading to this gold lead that we're seeing from Mountain Home has been their jungler with has been just cooperation between both of them. Watermonk especially as kind of the top player. He's having a lot of pressure put on him right now, and for good reason. I mean, he already has a bit of a bounty on him.
Took a lot of damage there, but he didn't fall all the way. He does have the Rod of Ages we were talking about earlier. Gives him a lot of bonus health and HP, which is probably part of the reason why he was able to stay alive right there. But it took pretty much everything Aurelion Sol had, his Ignite, his ults, and all his mana to try and make that push. And it looks like even after all that, Watermonk is able to stick around and gather the wave before he recalls.
Excuse me, the mid laner, not the jungler. My bad. It's still a whole lot of pressure being put out. Technically, it's one of the few places where Soda Springs does have a CS lead, is in mid lane, but Water has already proven to be so lethal that talking about lethality, fight in bot lane.
Yeah, just a quick hook coming out onto Seraphine, and they're just immediately able to capitalize on it and take Seraphine out. I mean, Seraphine has such a hard time surviving in this lane once they've got that ultimate with the hook and the flay coming out. And they potentially could even look to dive this onto Ezreal. He has no summoners. We see some damage coming out to Garen. Looks like Kayn is on that side of the map, but is going to stick around towards the crab. Doesn't want to try and force anything. See Shogath near mid lane. Silas is going to look to jump in. He might be able to rotate in, help out his Aurelion Sol is going to just jump out, get a little bit of poke damage back in, but it's not much.
We are seeing one recall be brought out by the jungler for Mountain Home. It's going to probably delay any chance of a huge gank play happening, at least for the next minute or so. We also see bottom lane is resetting. No doubt, spending all of that fabulous gold that they've gotten, a 5K lead now, and what are you seeing in terms of the items that they're spending all that money on?
We're seeing a lot of the mythics get finished out. We see the shield bow. We see the Rod of Ages. Have to still kind of wait and see a little bit what the others decide to build. Of course, get late enough into this game, Ornn will be able to upgrade them as well, make them even stronger. And so, I mean, this is just such a strong position to find themselves in. He's kind of, Kayn's making his way towards bot lane. Might be able to look for something here as the wave is pushing in towards them. But he doesn't quite have his Kayn form yet. Hook coming out. It's going to land on Seraphine. They're going to jump in right on top of her, and she's just going to pop so quickly. Thresh does take the elimination. Going to run after Ezreal, but call out the ult. Does the hook land? It does. And they're able to finish off the double kill, take out Ezreal, and put themselves up 5 eliminations just on the bot lane themselves.
Well, he's been pretty on point with those hooks. Once again, we're just seeing Red be pushed back in the mid lane. So many situations where he's just been holding on by a thread and might not even be able to survive. He's just going to have to dive back under turret.
See some damage coming out onto Tons, but like you said earlier, he's a tank. He's Garen. He does what he wants and he survives. That's what the top lane's meant to do, but gonna be difficult the further behind he falls with his team. Oh, Aurelion Sol gonna be caught out here. Decided to greed just a little bit more for that wave. Oh, a missed. I mean, I guess it wasn't fully a missed ult, but just didn't really have any capitalization or anything they could do off of it. And so it didn't really lead to much.
Oh, and I don't know if Soda Springs is really, it's just a quick, up and around. Thought Mountain Home might actually be trying to flank him there, but no, they're just going to head back down to bot lane and just fight out with some more minions. And the lead has now gone to about 20 minions, the CS lead now for Mountain Home in the bot lane. Not that it's also too much of a, difference, the support CS lead, but for what it's worth, Mountain Home is leading in that as well.
It's true. Might have been the first missed hook we saw come out from Zombie over there. Wasn't able to find these players. Gives them a chance to kind of farm up a little bit. See, the second dragon has come up. It's going to be a cloud, but we see Silas jumping in onto Aurelion Sol, getting some damage in. Looks like he's just going to pull back, happy to chunk out about a third of Red Humongosaur's health.
Okay, I thought I was talking about big CS leads, but I was obviously not looking to the upper lane. It's 4-for-1. Mountain Home has a lead, and already their players are just going to collapse on this Cloud Drake, pick that up as well. Just keep the momentum going.
Yeah, I mean, there's just nothing that Soda Springs can do. Looks like Cho'Gath might try and contest.
Steal.
He does have the ultimate, so he's able to take it easily, but requires him to go over that wall, and I don't think that's a place he wants to be.
We're actually going to see the Hextech Drake is going to be the one they can potentially get the soul on, and already the first tower has fallen. A spin is not going to be stopping. Follow the Forge God right into Garen. Tons is living up to his name by taking a ton of damage, and it's just trying to get away. I think he's just going to be able to barely survive.
Yeah, looks he made it out, but it cost him his flash, his health, maybe a bit of his dignity as he runs around back to
he's heading back in, and it lands again.
Oh, he missed the auto. Oh, okay, he still is able to land it. Gets the classic Ornn clap down on Garen, taking him out and getting his first elimination of the game. Finding himself falling behind with his bot lane doing so well. But meanwhile, on the other side of the map, see Engage coming out. They're going to jump onto Cho'Gath. Finds himself just caught in the middle of 3 players. The heal's going to come out from Ezreal, but it's not going to be enough. Flash forward, landing the hook onto Seraphine, gets him the second. Going to jump onto Ezreal. He's going to use his heal. He will get out. Fire an ult back, but not quite enough to take out Zombie Killer.
Just going to manage to survive. Was not expecting Water Monk whatsoever.
Oh, he lives. I think it was one of those moments you thought, he's probably gone.
Yeah.
And just steps away. But no, Ezreal
So
survives.
this could also be, I mean, Soda Springs, we saw this with the Garen in the top lane, and now the bot lane as well. They keep on engaging, even though that they're only hanging on by very little amounts of health, and it's just kind of led to these long, drawn-out engagements that eventually go in Mountain Home's favor.
Interesting, I just noticed you're seeing a blue cane come out here. He's just looking for all the damage, wants to destroy these carries, but meanwhile, it looks like it's more than enough to take out the Garen as they pop multiple ults, but they're going to take him down.
So I completely take back I completely take back what I was said about, we probably wish, Lovely was here to see this Garen. Probably not like this. Probably not like this. It's like whenever Yoru is brought out in Valorant and is bottom fragger for the whole game. There are just certain staff members who, you wish they hadn't been picked at all.
Yep, everyone's got their favorite, and you hate to see them fall behind. And unfortunately, that's what we're seeing here from this Garen. Only 30 CS, down 77 compared to this Ornn. It's a tough spot to try and come back from. But all their other laners are keeping it relatively even across the board for the CS. They're not fully out of this, but they've got a long hill to climb. It makes it much harder when the hook comes out on the Ezreal. They've got the vision. We're just able to find Ezreal walking towards the mid lane.
And the second Rift Herald, Mountain Home is going to pick that one up as well. You've seen kind of across all of the lanes. I think the one exception is mid lane, but a lot of the T1 turrets have been taken out, so either this Rift Herald can be used to kind of just keep pushing evenly on Mountain Home or go really deep at top and bot as a huge engagement comes out mid.
Yeah, we see the hook come out, and I realized I misspoke earlier actually, but it doesn't matter. Seraphine's going to fire out the ult, but it's not going to land. We see Ornn coming around the backside, but he does not have his ult quite up. A huge knock-up coming out as he spawns the pillar. They're going to jump on top, take Seraphine first, as Emperor Jar Jar is godlike. Going to look to take out the Cho'Gath as well. Another hook comes out onto Aurelion Sol. He's able to flash out. Cho'Gath's going to get the knock-up, but the Ornn Horn comes down, clapping down the Cho'Gath and taking out 3 people. Ezra's going to fight onto Silas, though, as the action keeps continuing. He's going to take the ult, but looks like they're both going to back away, and Shelly's going to come in
Not
for
even.
second mid-turret.
I mean, sure. I mean, taking no damage, and might as well just take the charge on the T2 turret. And Oh my goodness, it just falls like toothpicks.
Gonna get a charge on the third turret as well. Ezreal's still just playing with fire, trying to dodge out all of these Silas E's. He's gonna take that Q, taking a lot of damage. Ezreal comes out and taken out by his own ultimate, and actually looks like that's it. Soda Springs has forfeit, and Mountain Home takes the game.
Yeah, sometimes just enough is enough. So that's going to close things out. Mountain Home winning that one pretty handily against Soda Springs. That'll do it for this particular match of League of Legends for the Idaho High School Series, which we're going to be hosting the championships for this later on in a few weeks or so.
Yeah, we'll be seeing some of the top Idaho schools come out to Boise, play on this stage we have behind us, and play some of the best League of Legends in Idaho. So looking forward to that.
Well, that's going to do it for this particular game. Congratulations to Mountain Home for pulling out the victory. And now as we prepare to wrap things up, we also get a chance to shout out one particular player of the game. I mean, I think my vote would have to go over to Water. Do you concur?
If I had to call out one player, I think it would be Zombie on the Thresh. He just had so many hooks.
that is true. All those hooks. I mean, if I had to get a percentage, I would guess, at least 60% of them probably landed. He was insane. So
played so well, just a great showing from him. But I mean, Water as well, just able to get so many solo kills and able to build up this lead for themselves and really put themselves on the map in that game and get themselves a substantial lead.
Well, congratulations to Mountain Home for getting that victory, and that's going to do it for us tonight, but we'll be back in the coming weeks with more Idaho High School League of Legends actions. But for now, though, we thank you for joining in. We hope you have a good evening and a good weekend as well. Stay safe out there.